every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. So welcome back. So glad to have you here today. The question that I hope to give some insight on this week is, where will you be in 5 years? Because we've talked a lot the last 3 or 4 weeks about goal setting, right? Or the idea that maybe goal setting isn't necessarily the best solution for you. And we talked a lot, especially last week, about systems. We got really clear on that idea that once you have an idea of something that you want to accomplish, then you just kind of keep working at it and keep going until you find what works for you. So not getting discouraged if you fail at first, because the intention is what you're working towards versus a fixed goal at a set time. We talked about how sometimes having that fixed goal with a set deadline can actually be discouraging, because then when you have setbacks or when you have failures, then it actually discourages you from continuing. Where if you just have an intention to try and get better at something, we talked a lot about running last week, but it could be anything. It could be journaling. It could be spending more time with friends and family. You're just looking for the best way to achieve that consistent habit, right? And so if it doesn't work the first time, that's okay. You just keep trying and come back around to it. But life obviously isn't always like that, where there's an abundance of time to try things and fail as many times as you need to get it right. Many times in life and in work, we do have to have balance and timelines on things. That we do need to set goals because we have to meet deadlines. That's the reality of life. And so that's what we're going to focus on today, is how to make sure that those goals are good goals, or smart goals, maybe you could say. But go ahead and throw your comments down below. I'd love to know, where will you be in 5 years from now? Dream out your big vision of 5 years from now. What's next for you? And you go ahead and share down below. I'd love to hear those thoughts with you. And I want to share you guys a story this week. It takes you all the way back to when I first graduated from massage school. So at the time, I was renting for the summer student house all the way back in Hamilton. I just finished school in Toronto. I'd gotten a job in Toronto, but I couldn't afford rent in Toronto yet, or I wasn't sure. I didn't believe that I could afford rent in Toronto. So I'd gotten a room in a student house. It was $300 a month all in, which was great. The only problem was I had to take this train back and forth to work every day. And so I'd get up at 3:30 in the morning to get the 5 a.m. train into Toronto, train my first client at 7 a.m. I was a personal trainer. Back then I hadn't even got my massage license yet. And work all day and normally come home around 5 or 6 o'clock at night. That's when I get the train to get home for 7 or 8 to kind of eat dinner really quick, go to bed and start all over again, because 3:30 came super early in the morning. And at first, I really dreaded the train rides, because it was over an hour each way. So an hour in, hour back to work, and nothing really got done on that train ride. And I found it super frustrating, because I was so tired and I was so worn out, and I was spending no time with friends or girlfriend at the time. It was really just living to work, which I didn't really love that much. But then I got onto podcasts for the first time, because it was really easy, right? Versus trying to read a book while you're bouncing around the train or all these things. Throw your headphones in and just kick back, relax, close your eyes, and enjoy the ride until you got into town. And so from there, I discovered the Tim Ferriss podcast. Was one of the first ones that somebody recommended to me. And one of the first episodes I listened to, actually not too long after I started on this podcast journey, was an interview that Tim did with a lady named Debbie Millman. And really fantastic, wonderful professional, had an amazing story, really inspiring. And at the end of it, she talked about this idea about remarkable life, how to live a remarkable life. She was a teacher at an art school, and this is an exercise that she gave to all of her students. And she was talking about how incredibly successful people were at actually achieving the vision that they laid out for themselves in this activity. And so that's my challenge for you guys today, because I want to share with you what happened when I wrote down my vision. And then I'm going to include some links in the Wired for Wellness Facebook group. You can head over there and check out. There'll be a little one pager you can download that gives you the activities to work through to do this remarkable life exercise. But I did it, and I'll share with you today what happened. And it was really, really powerful. But she hadn't set it a 10-year vision. So she wanted you to dream all the way out to 10 years in the future and imagine what that would look like for you, where your life would be 10 years from now. And for a lot of us, that's kind of crazy, right? Like, regardless of what stage we're at in our life, 10 years is so far out that oftentimes we dream too small, right? We kind of limit ourselves by what we can dream as possible. So I'd like to do this either at a year or 3 years. So because we're dreaming really, really big today, let's say 3 years. And that's what I did for myself. I sat down on that train ride and said, where am I going to be 3 years from now? And the dream that I had at the time was, I sat down and thought, okay, what would I want to do? I really hated taking the train. So obviously living closer to where I worked was a goal for me. I wanted to have time for friends, for family. I had some really amazing friends that I made through university, through high school, through massage school, and I wanted to make sure that I stayed in touch with them. Then I had time for my personal life as well, that I had time to exercise, that I had time to meditate, all the things I wanted to do. So those kind of ideas came out of my vision. And then most importantly, I realized that I really didn't like working for somebody else. I was tired of following other people's rules and having other people tell me what to do, especially as I got into massaging in Toronto. I found it very, very difficult to get the hours that I wanted to work, because a lot of times clinics were looking for female therapists and not male therapists. And I know that believing that obviously can be a self-limiting belief that holds you back. But at the time, it was giving me a lot of trouble. I was having a really hard time convincing a clinic owner that I was a good fit for their clinic as a male therapist, because a lot of them were looking for female therapists. And so I knew that I was a great therapist. I knew that I had a lot of value to offer. And so if I couldn't convince somebody else of it, I was just going to go out on my own and do it myself. So that was kind of the nuts and meat and potatoes of it, is I visioned this future where I was working for myself, that I had a lot more free time, more freedom, that I was close to work, more time for friends and family. And obviously imagined, success and paying all your bills and having all these nice things. And the crazy thing is that now here we are. I guess it's probably 5 years from when I first sat down and lived that dream. But I've had the clinic for 2 years, so almost 3 years, probably to the day of when I sat down and wrote that long-term vision, the remarkable life plan. I was sitting in the lawyer's office signing the papers to buy Discover Wellness. So that really wasn't necessarily intentional. Like, I didn't have step 1 to do this, step 2 do this, step 3 do this. But I had that dream in my mind that one day I was going to own my massage clinic. So a lot of times when I was making decisions as I built my practice and grew my business in Toronto, I was always thinking about, even if things didn't go well at first, is there something I could learn from this opportunity? Or if there's an opportunity I could take on that would give me the skills that I needed to eventually have my own business and be successful at running that. And it paid off, obviously, because I've ended up exactly where I dreamed it, and in other ways exceeded my wildest expectations. But I think for me personally, having that why or that long-term vision, or being really clear, on how you're spending your days, what you're doing, who you're with, what things you have, what structures in your life, being super, super clear and just writing out all the details, the furniture you have, that type of house you live in, the city you live in, or the type of area you live in. Is it rural? Is it more urban? Do you have your own business? Do you work for somebody else? How much are you making from money? Like, what kind of car do you drive? All these things. The more clear you can be, like blocking off maybe half an hour. I think my ride trainer was an hour. I think it took me most of the hour to sit down and write this out, but having at least a half hour to sit down and just dream big and write all of this out and do it on pen and paper, because for whatever reason, I find it's so much easier to kind of brainstorm and be creative on pen and paper. Maybe I'm just old school like that, but loved sitting down and doing that exercise. It was a lot of fun when I did it. And it's really, once you have that, then you can kind of scale back and say, okay, like, what kind of things do I need to do? What skills am I missing? What connections do I need to make? What, on and on and on, all the list. What training do I need? What practices do I need to implement in my life? What time do I need to make? What time do I need to, or what do I need to make space for in my life so I have time to do all these things that I'm going to do? Once you're clear on that, it makes it really easy to kind of maybe have an annual goal or a quarterly goal or whatever, but then distill it down into like kind of weekly, monthly chunks of what's next kind of thing. It gives you a lens through which to make your decisions. And so I find that is probably the one thing that I've had been the most helpful or the most successful, or helped me be the most successful in my life, is using that 5-year remarkable life vision to kind of inform all the decisions that I make in my life going forward from that point. And so I encourage you to take the opportunity to do it as well. Like I said, if you head over into the Discover Wellness Facebook group, there will be a little worksheet to help you work through and come up with your own vision, whether you do a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10-year vision to a remarkable life. And go ahead and throw comments down below too. What, when you dream big, what are your dreams for where you will be 5 years from now? I'd love to hear from you guys and see what your thoughts are. I'm going to sit down and do one as well that I'll share with you guys in the Wired for Wellness Facebook group, just because I think it's kind of a cool time to dream for what's next in the future for me. So that's it. I'm going to wrap things up. I'm trying to keep these at 10 minutes, and so I'm just about on time for today. So thank you all. As always, head on over. If you're not part of the Wired for Wellness Facebook group yet, you can find it from the Discover Wellness Facebook page. Click in and join there. And like I said, there'll be a worksheet later this afternoon posted up for you guys, and share some comments down below about where you're going to be in 5 years. And hopefully that helps. Hopefully that gives you some clarity on how to make decisions about goal setting that are really effective. We'll talk more next week about maybe some of the specifics about an ideal week and different things like that, but just wanted to get that big picture vision to help you kind of decide what things should be goals and what things shouldn't be goals. Because that's, I think, one of the most important things or biggest mistakes that we make is committing to things that don't really align with our long-term vision. So now you have a way of lining that out. So have a good day. Happy Wednesday. And we'll see you back here next week, same time, 2 o'clock for our weekly Facebook Live. Take care, guys.